So, welcome again, everyone. My name is Joy Ahn, and just a little background about myself. I've been working at the Fung Institute for about 2 years now, and before that, I worked at UC Irvine for 5 years with international students exclusively. So, these 4 students are part of the reason you guys came here today, is to get a real look at what a life of an MN student is. So, I will be moderating a few questions to the students so you can get an idea of how life is as a student, and then we will open it up to all of you, and you can ask any question you'd like, as long as it's appropriate. Okay? So first, we'll start with Emma, and then we'll go down to Daniel. If you could just give a brief introduction of yourself, your name, where you did your undergrad, what department you are part of in your capstone project.
Hey, I'm Emma. I did undergrad at the University of Florida. I'm in the mechanical engineering department, and hey, go Gators. And I'm working with Nick on the 3-dimensional holographic lithography team for printing microstructures in an automated process.
Hi, I'm Nick. I went to UCLA. I graduated in 2012. I worked as a manufacturing engineer in injection molding for about 3 years, and now I'm doing my master's in industrial engineering and operations research. And Emma and I are on the same capstone project, and we're building a microfluidic chip to perform the experiment she just mentioned, and we're using readily available lab equipment. So we're basically 3D printing a microfluidic chip.
Hi, I'm Alagu. I did my undergrad in electrical engineering in India. Right now I'm doing more computer science. I got admitted into signal processing and communication concentration. And my capstone project is scalable video on demand using edge resources.
Hi everyone, my name is Daniel, but you guys can call me Danny. I did my undergraduate at Columbia University, and here my major is bioengineering, and my capstone project is we're creating a low-cost point-of-care HIV monitoring device for low-resource settings.
Okay, great. So first question, and Emma, I'll have you answer first, and then Alagu. Why did you choose Cal?
So I got into a few MS programs, and this was the only MEng program I applied to, but I realized that I wanted more of an industry. I wanted to go to industry right after graduation, and I didn't really want to focus just on technical work and research, so I thought that the MEng program was the best.
Funny story, when I was in high school, I heard about Cal UC Berkeley, and that time I decided I wanted to go to Berkeley, but later when I was applying, I looked at the programs. I had this thing between Master of Science and Master of Engineering. Master of Engineering was more industry oriented, and it was exactly what I was looking for, and I applied for it. And EECS at Berkeley, I don't think you need an explanation for that.
All right, so Nick, so far working in your capstone project, what has been one of the highlights?
So we're working a lot with 3D printers, and we did a lot of design stages, and for the entire fall semester we were basically just doing the design of our chip mold. And when we actually 3D printed on like a really high scale 3D printer and seeing the actual product come out and how good it looked, that was probably the biggest highlight directly related to the project. Seeing the actual piece in our hand that we can visualize what we've been working on for the last 3-4 months. Very rewarding.
And same question for Danny.
So the capstone project that I'm in kind of involves a microfluidic system in it, and we need it to be fast in order for it to be point of care. So we've been doing a lot of testing with different coatings in order to improve the flow. So for the most part, at the very beginning, we were getting really slow flow, and we'd be spending like 30 minutes looking at a computer screen with a microscope, just trying to see if it's actually moving. And then like a couple of weeks ago, we actually got like coating that worked really quickly, and we just started going, and we're like, yes, it's finally working. So that was really nice.
Yeah. Back to Nick, in terms of what has been another highlight, not necessarily technical related to your capstone project, but perhaps like working with your team or working with your advisor?
I'd say working with my team. Emma,
Good answer.
we're too good right here. Our other teammate, Eric, we were lucky enough to be able to meet each other before we committed to the project and decided we did want to work together on this project. And after our first meeting, we went out and had a pitcher of beer and got to know each other, and we've been working very well together ever since. So we've been very lucky in that we have been very smooth flowing as far as team camaraderie, I guess.
Okay. Next question. First to all of you, what has been your favorite course so far here at Cal? Could be anything you've taken.
My favorite course is CS 289 Introduction to Machine Learning. That's one of the most popular courses in the CS department. It's very hard to get in, but if you are a Master of Engineering student, I mean, they just put you in the class directly. And also, it's the course that got me the job I really wanted. So, yeah.
Cool. And same question for Danny.
So so in terms of the technical classes, my favorite one has been Principles of MRI, Nuclear Magnetic Resonance Imaging. And the cool thing about it is not only is the lecture fantastic, but we've actually gotten a couple of labs where we actually got to go and play with MRIs, which was pretty cool. So that was nice.
Okay. Next question. It's for Nick and Emma. Nick, you can go first. What's one piece of advice you wish you knew before coming to the program?
Okay, so this is kind of touching on what Beth mentioned earlier. Berkeley has a ton to offer. There's different projects, whatever you're interested in, you can find something to do here. I would advise find what's really important to you, because you cannot do everything, and you just don't have the time or energy to do it while keeping up your outside life and your school. So find a few things that are really important to you and go for those ones as much as you can, and don't worry about the peripheral activities. Just focus on what you really want to do and enjoy them.
And also kind of touching on what Nick said, networking is more important than you realize it, at least first coming in. So try to make time for that as much as you can, and trying to balance social activities and school activities, but definitely prioritize networking also.
Okay. So housing is very, can be a complicated process here at Cal. So, so Emma, how did you find housing, and do you have a car? Do you think students here need a car?
So I came in July to look for housing. I spent a few days here just kind of walking around and figuring out what was open and available. There are a lot of students, so on the other hand, there are a lot of students that live in iHouse where we were yesterday, so that's also another option if you want to live on campus. I don't have a car, but my roommate has a car, so if we ever need to go do groceries, I just bum a ride with her. But if you do, I don't think you need a car, only if you want to go to Tahoe for the weekend, but you could rent a car. Or you can rent Zipcar, which is $8 an hour for whenever you need it.
Same question for Danny.
Yeah, I hear housing is really difficult. When I was looking for a place to stay, even a couple months before coming in, it was really hard to find a place. But I'd actually come to the visiting day that you guys are in last year, and they'd warned me that it was super hard to get housing. So then me and my current roommate right now, we found this place online that looked cool, was right next to Trader Joe's, and had a washer dryer included. And so we're just boom, we're getting that sight unseen. And so, yeah, we kind of took a gamble, but it ended up working out really well for us. But maybe you shouldn't all take a gamble all the time, but just know that, it can be tricky. And in terms of whether or not you need a car, in Berkeley, you really don't. If you have I seriously recommend having a bike. You can get around really easily with a bike. But it is nice to, so I have a car. It's nice to have a car, it gives you a little bit more flexibility if you need to travel around, but you don't really need to. If you want to go to San Francisco, you've got BART and a bunch of public transportation systems. And here in San Francisco, Lyft and Uber are super readily available, so it's not too bad.
Cool. So how do you maintain a school-life balance, Alika?
I think everyone would agree with this. Each course load in general is usually way more than other departments, but you always have at least 2 weeks for all your assignments. It's all about time management. You will have a lot of free time. In fall, you might be spending all that time preparing for your interviews. But in spring, you'll definitely have time to explore the Bay Area. It's just about time management. You will have time to have fun.
And same question for Nick.
I like to play intramural sports. We have an intramural volleyball and a basketball team. That's all MN students. We also, during boot camp, it's pretty intense. You're doing stuff every day. We would make some time after every class and we'd go over and we'd play together and we end up enjoying it and playing. Another thing I do as far as the school side is once I come on campus, if I have like a big break, I'll stay on campus and get work done in the morning between classes. It's just nice when you're already in like class mode, just break out the homework. And a lot of people work in Blum, which is right over there, and there's always people in there. And if you need help on homework or something, you can always collaborate. That's an easy way to not spend hours on impossible problems.
Okay. So you mentioned that we have some IM teams. Emma, can you give us other ways of how to socially connect with the MN class and also Berkeley at large?
Yeah, so the social reps will put together events throughout the year. So they put together a Halloween party, a Thanksgiving potluck. Before winter break, we did another potluck. And then we've also gone out to like Tahoe with a group of people. I know some people went during spring break. They did that, or some people drove down the coast. So there are a lot of opportunities to get involved with your MN classmates. But also, even if you want to just step outside of that, you can just go to the gym. There's always going to be a pickup game of anything. So you can just make friends like that also.
Yeah. So also there is a graduate social club outside of what our social reps do for our students that do for the graduate students at large at Cal. And they host events. You just get on their Facebook feed and then you can go to those too. So at this time, we want to give you enough time to ask all the questions you've been thinking about why come to Berkeley, how is it being a student. So this is your time to ask all the questions you've ever wanted to ask a current student. Don't be shy. Okay.
What are the platforms you guys use here to find off-campus housing? Is Craigslist like the predominant one, or is there like a Street Easy thing going on? What?
There is also a group on Facebook called UC Berkeley Housing.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think you need your berkeley.edu email ID to join the group.
There's also
Cal
just Cal Housing, which is just for Cal students, and I believe we had access to like the staffing options as well. Because there's different echelons of where you are and which housing you have available. So that's where I looked mostly.
Yeah, there's a page on the new admit website that I definitely encourage everyone to look at, and Cal Rentals is linked there. A lot of our current students also live at International House. Any of you guys? So International House is an on-campus housing option, and you can apply to that now. So a lot of our students do that, and there's also a couple other, if you have a family, there's the University Village, and there's also Ida Jackson Graduate Housing. So there are on-campus housing options as well. So take a look at all those resources linked on the new admit website.
You said Machine Learning 1 had got you the job offer that you wanted. For
Yeah.
the rest of you, how many of you have jobs, or what are you looking to go into?
You should You should.
Okay, yeah. So I actually I have a job. I got it very recently, and it wasn't a particular class that helped me. I'm in medical devices. I'm going to be working for a big biotech company, one of the big ones, and it wasn't necessarily a class that got me the job, but it was thanks to UC Berkeley that I was able to do it. So I can't stress enough how important networking is for finding a job. Applying online is part of it, but if you just do that, it's like sending your resume to the void. The best thing to do is to, if you can take advantage and find people at a company, you don't have to start at the top. If you have some connection to a company, get an informational interview, and then find from them other people you can talk to, and then spread out. And that's one of the good things about being here in Berkeley, that you have connections to all these companies in the Bay Area, as well as a bunch of other ones in California. And for medical devices, that's huge. And actually, it was the reason I was able to get this one is because I happened to find this special conference through UC Berkeley. I found this conference for like scientists that have a diverse diversity or background. And so I went to this conference and I met a bunch of people from the company there, and then they've now recognized me, and I didn't submit my application to the void. So, yeah.
Okay. I think we had this Master of Engineering alumni networking thing like end of August, and there was this alumni who actually pushed my resume, and that's how I got the interview call. Like, in your interview, it's all your pure technical skills, but getting the interview is networking helps.
I have a job as a business analyst in supply chain, and I actually saw a posting. I think Beth might have posted it on the Facebook group, and they were advertising on-campus interviews. So I just put my resume in the pot, got an interview, and eventually got a job.
I have a job also as a product consultant, and I got it through the career showcase when I came to talk. When the recruiters came, I just talked to a recruiter. We hit it off, and he emailed me just to make sure that I submitted the application to set up an interview. So networking really helped.
Next question.
Still along the job front, I was wondering if you could give me any insight as to like how many of your peers are staying more in the technical realm, and how many, like you mentioned, you were a product consultant, sort of going more in towards the business side of things.
I don't have numbers per se, but I think it would probably be mostly technical, and then, so it also depends on if you've had work experience or not. So I haven't had work experience, I just came straight from undergrad. So I'm doing more, it's kind of like 50-50 split really what I'm doing. It's a little bit business, but it's a little bit technical also. I know Nick had business experience, so he's going to be doing, well, exactly what it is, business analyst. So it really just depends on what your background is, and then also what you want in the next like 5 to 10 years, and like what will get you there.
Yeah. But I mean, just to add on to that, I think it's also a lot of what you want to put into it. So me, for instance, I don't have much, I didn't have working experience, and I actually, in terms of my technical side, I originally, back in undergrad, wanted to be a doctor. And it wasn't until pretty late in the game that I decided to go into actual industry and biomedical engineering. And so I never really did internships, and so there was nothing to show for my technical background. So finding a job was a little bit harder, but like I really wanted to do something technical. I'm going to be working as an R&D engineer. And I just, head first in it. It's going to be harder if you don't have the experience, but you can still do it. So, yeah.
And we'll talk a lot about career services and how others have gotten jobs later on. But next question, go for it.
On the subject of technical depth, I know a lot of people are considering like between MEng and MS. Can you guys speak to like your own experience of your technical classes? Do you feel like you're getting the depth that you really wanted out of a master's compared to possibly an MS? Are some of the students taking additional classes to gain the depth that they want? Can you take classes in other fields to get more breadth? Did anybody take advantage of the summer courses available?
You'll be doing the exact same technical courses that the Master of Science students are doing. If you finish your minimum requirements, you're free to take whatever courses you want. And it depends on you. Like I have friends who took like 3 technical courses per semester when the minimum was just 2. So it's like how much ever you want to make use of it and what you want to study.
And in terms of the breadth question, so we actually have access to classes in the Haas Business School, and so if you want to take some, MBA, like proper MBA classes, you can do that as well.
And there are some courses that are cross-listed. So I took a class that was half MBA, half mechanical engineers. So you do have that opportunity if you want to get more of like a variety in your classes. You can seek out those courses.
For IUR, your first semester, your classes are pretty much determined. You can add on more classes if you want. But the second semester, all your classes are with MS and PhD students. So I'm in a class that has like 10 people, and 5 of them are PhD students. So the technical aspect there is a little more challenging. But if you're interested in that, you definitely can find what you're looking for.
Yeah.
In IUR, at least.
Yeah, don't worry about technical depth. You're going to be with the other like graduate students with PhDs and stuff like that. So.
I think there's a question back here.
Hi. I was wondering how are you guys funding your education here, whether it be through fellowship or taking out loans?
I mean, for me, I can thank Papa Campo for that, but yeah, that's not for everybody.
I think I would also fall under the same category.
I have a fellowship and loans, and I emptied my savings account from 3 short years of work.
And I have a fellowship and very nice parents.
Are there more questions?
Hi. So you mentioned that you guys were able to meet before choosing your capstone group, basically. So I'm wondering if when you get those rankings in, are you able to see other people who are ranked for the groups, and then could you like mingle and kind of see who you like?
So everyone does post their top 4 interests, and that's public. Everyone can see what those are.
Our experience is a little different, though.
Yeah, that's not normal to be able to meet and then decide. So usually you don't see what everyone agrees to until they accept, and then once they accept, their name is like bold or something.
Yeah, and you'll see who's in the group.
Who's in the group.
But yes, there is like this public spreadsheet where you can see like who's applied for what, who's accepted what, so you can kind of gauge what everyone else is doing. And if you want to meet up with the other people that chose the first choice that you did, you're more than welcome to do that.
Though I think one thing I'd like to say is it's also kind of cool to go into a group with people you don't know at all, because then you like expand your network, and also you meet some cool people.
We met to be on the project.
And also, when you're deciding your capstone groups, you're in boot camp, so you're seeing everyone a ton.
Yeah.
Like boot camps, I think like 60 people roughly, and probably some of them are applying to the same capstone projects as you. You can always just collaborate with them and figure it out. There's a lot of collaboration goes on in boot camp.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in boot camp, what they're speaking of is the whole case discussion method. And so you're in class with 50 to 60 students. So there's 5 different groups that are happening. So you get to know people within that smaller setting, then you get to know at larger the whole MEng program through like the capstone info sessions, through all the career services, through all the different orientation activities that we have for you.
I was wondering if you guys knew any part-time MEng students, and I wanted to see if there's any insight you can help out as far as not just the school life balance, but the school life plus over 40 hours of work balance.
So currently the IOR evening program, I would say, Nick, do you have any classes with any of the part-time students?
No, but I do know in the fall semester they have 2 nights a week. It's, I think, Monday, Wednesday, 6 to 9. And the course load on those classes aren't incredibly strenuous. I'd say a lot of my time up until like a month ago was spent job hunting. And if you've already got a job, you're going to basically take that out of your schedule. And I think that's pretty close. I was probably spending 10 to 15 hours a week on that. And that's plenty to cover your coursework, because I think you'll only be taking the 2 classes. And if I were you, this is what I did. When coming back to school I wasn't sure how it was going to be, because I'd been out of academia for a few years. I only took the minimum classes in the fall. It wasn't until this semester that I added on extras and I took on an extra project. And I would recommend, I guess, feeling it out in the fall and then see what you can do. Maybe if you want to add an extra technical class. But if you've already got a job, you're probably just mostly looking for the degree. So
And to finish the capstone project.
but the capstone, I believe, for the part-time is the next year. They would probably know better. So you don't have to balance the capstone as well. So that's a lot of time. The capstone is really an unfixed schedule. You could, like, I have to go to Oakland this afternoon, and we made that plan like 3 days ago. So it's not a strict schedule. You got to, I guess, roll with that one. That's helpful.
Hello. How difficult is it to take classes from outside your departments? Is it common to be rejected or something like that?
I mean, you do have to take like the two technical credits. They do have to be part of your, major, and you have to get like advisor approval. However, if you choose to take like a 3rd class or beyond this 6 minimum credit load, then you can do it wherever you want. And in terms of how difficult it is, so one of my classes, the MRI one, is actually cross-referenced with EECS. And I don't want to put fire to what she said beforehand, but it's pretty hard, considering my bioengineering background. But it's great. I'm learning a lot more like signal processing and things like that in the process. So it's a challenge, but that's kind of why you're here.
I know a lot of IEOS students take CCS courses.
Some do, yeah. I don't know about a lot, but.
If there was one thing you guys could change or do differently in the whole program, would there be something?
Wait,
I'm back here.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I just started talking. But not to be a Debbie Downer, just like if there's something that frustrates you or kind of has been an ongoing issue in the last year, what is it? Why?
I guess.
Well, so this is kind of like a personal thing as well. So this is actually something I wanted to say beforehand. So my favorite class, when I said I wanted to start off technical, and then my actual favorite class was engineering leadership. But there's also an issue with that in that there's a lot of different modules in it, and sometimes the materials you get for each module are pretty expensive. And like you want to learn each one as well as you can, but it's something you just don't have the time to read it. And so like. It's like, I don't know, it's a lot of stuff that's given to you and you kind of have to filter it out. It's not really easy to do all of it. And ideally, I'd like to be able to like feel like I completed each part. But that's also a personal thing, like time management.
That goes back to what I said earlier. You got to figure out what's important to you, do those really well, and maybe not so well in the other stuff. Balance.
So for a capstone, I was just wondering if you could maybe describe to me what a week looks like. So in particular, I'm interested in like, so how often do you meet / like work with your team? How often do you communicate with your client and supervisor?
Every day.
Those are scheduled masters.
Okay, so usually, I'll like walk you through our schedule basically. So over the weekend, we kind of just like figure out what our next plans are. Monday, we probably accidentally meet to just kind of go over the next plans and what we have to get done. Tuesdays, nothing. Wednesdays, we have meetings and we have practicum sections. So we also have, I don't know, have you guys gone into detail about that?
To capstone integration? Or
Yeah.
We spoke about it, but you can go.
Okay, well, so during this like 1 hour a week, you have like presentations and you look back on what you did well, what you didn't do well, and you work on that. So we meet just to go over those presentations and figure out what our like main target points that we want to hit are. And then after a capstone meeting with our professor, we take that and then apply it and like talk to our industry advisor. And then this semester we've been in the lab a little more. So we've probably been going in about 2 or 3 hours every like other day, probably just to work on a chip. But our project takes a little longer because we need to like mix everything, put it in the oven, let it cure, take it out. So
this
basically every day.
This varies from team to team, and it depends on how efficient you are and efficient your meetings are, and what your PhD advisor or your mentor expects from you.
Yeah, it's completely dependent on your project. This is actually going to be one of the main challenges of the whole experience is project management. So like you're going to decide how much you guys are going to meet. You're going to decide. I mean, outside of also the PhDs, going to be like we're meeting these times. So those are fixed. But like the rest of it's on you. So yeah, in my team, we actually like meet 2 times a week and maybe a third one for just meetings if our advisor wants to talk to us. And then other than that, like. So I'm kind of have a different role than a lot of my teammates. So they're actually going into the lab. I'm doing like this programming part of the project. So my stuff is kind of like this weird schedule where sometimes there's insane progress and other times I'm looking at a computer screen for a while. But yeah, so it really depends on what you're doing. But you know, hopefully you'll manage well and you'll plan it out and you guys will get the project done. Yeah.
That's a good point that Danny made. We only have 1 hour set meeting every week, but we work probably 5 to 10 hours a week, each of us. So it's really making your own time.
So my question is probably more for Joy.
Sure.
Is this program ABET accredited? And if not, does it affect people finding jobs or continue their schooling into graduation?
So Beth can answer that. Yeah.
It's schools that are accredited. So UC Berkeley, a College of Engineering, is absolutely accredited. are doing great. But like I said, the school, not the program that's accredited, and UC Berkeley absolutely is.
Okay, so for students that aren't really sure if they're that interested in management and entrepreneurship, like if that's totally not what they want to go into, how well do they fit into the required courses that are so heavily focused on those areas?
So, can you repeat that question?
So if, say you don't think you really want to go into entrepreneurship and management, either of those areas, like how well would you fit into those classes since so many are required and have those focuses?
Well, only two class. Well, really only one class is focused on management and entrepreneurship, which is engineering leadership. The other ones are the technical ones, or they're ones specific for communication, which are useful regardless of your background. But in terms of how well you fit in that, it's not necessarily what you want to do, but it's more like you have to be willing to speak up in class and participate and things like that. That's pretty much it in order to want to do it. Otherwise, just do the homework. Yeah.
Yeah, you get as much of it as you put in. So if you don't really want to get that much out of it and that's not something you're interested in, you can kind of just like fly by. But if you want to get more out of it, you can participate.
Yeah.
On the other hand, that is one of the biggest distinctions amongst this program and other programs. So like a lot of people here are really interested in the leadership aspect of it.
So what are the pros and cons of on-campus and off-campus housing?
I think we all live off campus,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
On campus is actually hard to get.
I mean, yeah. So
I know a lot of people who applied to it, but they didn't get it.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you the differences between my experience working, living on campus back at Columbia and here now, off campus. I mean, nobody's cleaning your stuff anymore, but you have more independence. Nobody's telling you hey, it's quiet hours, other than your neighbors when they get upset at a party and call the cops. But that's a different thing.
Also, on-campus housing, you get meals included, versus when you live on campus, like you're fending for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
From more of a social aspect, I know a lot of people, especially a lot of people in IUR, I don't know how it is, they live in the International House, which is iHouse, where we were last night, and they have a bunch of, it's like a whole different group you're a part of. They have social events, different schedules. They have like Sunday night dinners that they get all formally dressed up and go to. So there's a whole different set of activities you can do in that regard. And those people really like living there. It's very friendly and a very social group, which I live in a studio apartment by myself, so I don't really get that.
If you're considering the iHouse, I think you should apply right now because I applied late and I didn't get in.
Yeah, if you're planning for proper on-campus housing, go quickly, immediately. Yeah.
Question back here. Outside of the leadership courses, how much do you apply marketing and accounting and finance and those other concentrations into the capstone project?
So I'll take this one. You do it a lot. So there's a whole section in your final report that's basically that. Essentially, we don't have a thesis. We have a final report in this, and along with actually creating the product. And that thing has that final report has two chapters. One that's written by your group, which is kind of gives a context and understanding of what's happening with your project in a more global market setting. So that one, you need all of the knowledge you got from engineering leadership. And you have to understand, how you're going to market it, or what kind of systems you have in place in order to get this device to actually be built. And then the second part is actually your personal contributions to it. But it's a big part. You have to understand, your customer needs. You have to plan out how you'd be able to market, how do you'd be able to scale it out to distribute it. So it's important.
Second part, do you ever get to implement it in any way, or is it mostly research and reporting?
I want to add, a lot of people think leadership, they think communication, team building, but there's a lot more to it than that. We have, one of the modules is intellectual property. How do you deal with a patent and university patent rights? And there's another part is financing and entrepreneurship. So how do you get money? Who do you want to donate to? So there's I think 6 or 7 modules you go through, and undoubtedly at least a few of those will apply to your project. It's not just the team building leadership. So there's a lot more to leadership than, at least for me, I was thinking leadership is building a good team. There's a lot more to it than that. It's very well rounded, and there's be very surprised if you couldn't somehow connect that to your project.
Yeah. And then in addition, it also depends on what stage of the project you're on. I'm not sure if they've had that talk yet, but there's like early stage projects, like middle, like, you know, early, barely a concept one. Then there's like the production, like early prototyping, and then there's like the final part. And that also depends, you know, affects what kind of aspects of engineering leadership you're going to be using for that. If you're wondering, oh, am I actually going to be able to take this product to market? It depends, like maybe, depending on where you are, where you start, and how much you're able to get done. But it's a possibility.
I was wondering if you knew any people like in your class who were deciding between MS programs and a Master's of Engineering program, and why they made their decision. Any kind of advice on that?
I did. This is the only MS program I applied to. I applied to a bunch of other MS programs. And so I don't know who here is considering MS, but a lot of them are anywhere from 1.5 years to 2 years. And it's definitely more technically based. And so my undergrad is in biological engineering, and now my master's is in mechanical. And while it sounds crazy that I'm only taking 12 credits to get like a completely new degree, I think that it's enough because you're still getting a basis of what the ME degree will give you in like the ME courses. But I also wanted to get that leadership experience because I did want to go to industry. So it really just depends on what you want. If you like know that you want to go to industry, this would probably be better for you. But even if you're still deciding, this could also be a really good opportunity. So I know we know a few people in our class that are going on to pursue their PhD even after their MEng because they realize that they want to do more technical.
Question in the back. So you guys are looking for jobs, and well, you have your jobs now. But while you were looking for jobs, what did it seem like the employer's receptance to the MEng degree was, as opposed to MS? Because I know coming from certain fields, you know, you have to kind of explain to them what certain things are. So did you have any difficulties actually articulating what the degree actually says compared to something more traditional?
In my case, I was just considered as a master's student. I don't think the employers really care that much whether it's a Master of Science degree or a Master of Engineering degree. But I don't think that was the same for everyone, especially the ones who went for consulting. I think the Master of Engineering really helped them.
Yeah, so I was just kind of considered a master's student, but then when I kind of did my elevator pitch, I phrased it in such a way that I was 2/3 technical and 1/3 business and leadership. So that helped me, at least with my consulting job, that's what I wanted.
So I did a lot of interviews over the last 6 months, more than I'd like to admit. And the more I realized that they don't understand what the MEng program is, and the better I got at explaining what it is, the more interested in it they were, if that makes sense. So the more I talked about it and explained how I am getting the business acumen in addition to the technical aspect, they became very interested in that, especially since I'm going into be a business analyst for supply chain, which is kind of both sides of my technical and my leadership type classes. So definitely come up with a way that you can connect yourself to both aspects for the role you're going into, and explain that very clearly to them, and more than likely they'll be interested in it.
Yeah, he's got a really good point there. You just you want to just tailor how you're going to present yourself specifically to the job you're applying to. So the one I'm in, it's a rotational program in medical devices. So I'm building a medical device right now. That's pretty much how I pitched it. They didn't really care so much about the MEng. Mainly they heard Berkeley. Yo, that's awesome. So yeah, that helps.
You gotta know your audience.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What was your day-to-day boot camp experience like? Like how much time spent on campus, that kind of thing?
All of it.
So boot camp class is just 3 hours, but then you have to take into account the reading and like the preparation for the case study the next day.
Yeah.
And in the fall, you also have a group project. So
but I think it's different. Next year.
Well,
because you have the option of marketing.
Yeah. Well, so in the fall for us, we had a group project in marketing, and we actually just got paired with like 5 random people spread out throughout the program. And it's in that one you actually have to, in like 3 days, you have to collect actual real data to support this like marketing pitch. So you have to go out or online, and you have to do all these experiments and data analytics. So that one took a fair amount of time. So the boot camp's pretty intense. Don't take it lightly.
So you have Sunday off, but it's going to be dedicated to this project.
Yeah.
Also, the best part of engineering leadership is you get to know people from other departments. I think if you were in the Master of Science, you would just be restricted to your own department, but now I know a lot of students. I mean, all of them are my friends, and none of them are geeks.
Yeah.
This is more a bioengineering specific question, but I was just wondering what kinds of jobs are bioengineer, like people who go through the bioengineering segment typically offer. Just like, I was just kind of wondering also if you knew any like statistics in terms of like what percentage of BioEs get hired and by what companies typically in like Bay Area or elsewhere?
I don't really have any specific statistics.
Yeah, we'll be getting those this afternoon in the career services section. They'll go into where everyone from last year with the BioE background went after graduation.
I can give you an idea of what people are kind of going through right now in the job hunt. If that
that works.
So it really depends on what you want. Like, so we have a bioengineering background, but that's a really wide ranging thing. What I found is that it kind of divides into three separate, I know some people who are going in for, they want to continue academia and they want to do more hardcore research. And so they're going into, doing a PhD. And I already know a couple bioengineering friends who already got their PhD program acceptances. Then there's, I know some people have gone into consulting, a more like a business-oriented sort of background that involved in bioengineering. And then there's also like me, people who are going into the more engineering side. And within that, there's two different parts of the whole bioengineering industry. There's life sciences industry. There's biotech and medtech. And so biotech is going to be the one that's a little bit closer to research. And so depending on your background or what you want to show, you can go into that. Or medtech, which is more medical devices. Like that one's more like engineering and building products. And so it's really up to you how you want to do it. It's available. Like you can plan your courses for it. You can develop your own personal brand, your profile for it. So that's how I found. But it really helps to know where you want to go from the beginning of the year, because we only have 1 year here. That's not very much time. So think about what you want to do in the next steps and cultivate your brand for that.
Another thing to think about, a lot of IUR people go into consulting, and that recruitment process takes place way early in the year. So if you want to do that, honestly start looking at consulting companies now and familiarizing with the big ones or the ones you're interested in. Because they once you get here, you start going into that instantly. Right. And then I know for CS,
it's pretty early.
It's really early as well because they want to lock them up. But for most companies that I've talked to, for example, Amazon, I interviewed with them 3 months ago, and they're not ready to hire someone necessarily for this particular group I was interested in until they don't even want to go forward with the late stage interviews until April, which at that point it was really late, and I didn't really want to wait that long. So different companies will hire at different times, and I think it has a lot to do with the industry and the teams in the company.
Yeah, that's really important actually. So for the more technical bioengineering ones, if you want to do rotational program sort of things, that's really early on. Like last semester, you have to have been applying for those. But more the actual engineering positions and that aren't necessarily these big companies, like the more startups and mid-sized companies, they're more recruiting now. So you kind of have to plan out, understand what you want to do, and plan accordingly.
Okay. We have time maybe for one more question.
I have a question here in the middle.
Okay. Middle.
So for your capstone projects, what have been useful resources for designing and prototyping testing, for on campus? What are the access to your lab materials, and what have you found useful for yourself?
So there are a lot of facilities on campus that you can use, but since it is such a big school, you need to apply and try to get certified, and that's kind of a lengthy process. But if you kind of know near the beginning of the year with your capstone that you're going to be manufacturing something, even if it's small scale, try to get in there as early as possible. We had a little bit of trouble with that at the beginning, but there are a lot of different opportunities if you need that. Your advisor is going to know a lot about that field, aka why he's doing that or she's doing that in the first place. So they're going to be a really good resource also. And then some projects have industry advisors that they're going to be very helpful also. So it really just depends on what type of project, if it's just industry or if it's industry and university or if it's just university in terms of immediate resources.
Okay, so in case you still have a lot of questions to ask them, these students and more students that you'll be meeting throughout the day will all be at lunch with you. So feel free to sit next to them and ask them more questions. So thank you guys very much.